An alleged member of the Hells Angels motorcycle club appeared in federal court this afternoon.
Early morning and police are planning a major assault on the Hells Angels.
Well, thousands of motorcycles are expected to ride into Stockton tomorrow, and law enforcement says they are prepared.
The Hells Angels are considered one of the big four motorcycle gangs in the United States by various law enforcement agencies. They are also accused of engaging in widespread violent crime and organized crime, including drug trafficking, the trafficking of stolen goods, extortion, and prostitution operations. In this video, we will discuss 10 such most dangerous Hells Angels that will give you spine-chilling moments. How do you think these criminal organizations sustain themselves even after committing heinous crimes? Starting off the countdown, number 10 on our list is Maurice Boucher. He was raised in abject poverty in the Hochelaga Maisonneuve neighborhood of inner-city Montreal after his family relocated there when he was 2 years old. He was born in Kazapskal, Quebec, Canada. He went to crime because he was unhappy with his pay and needed money to sustain his drug habit. Boucher, a member of the SS, opposed non-white immigrants and became a candidate for Hells Angels. The SS was an organization of working-class men who were adamantly opposed to non-white immigration. At first, its only activity consisted of physically abusing non-white immigrants. Salvatore Cazzetta and HAMEL introduced him to drug dealing, arguing it was more profitable to be part of Hells Angels than being in SS. Salvatore Cazzetta was detained in 1994 after being accused of planning to import 200 kilograms of cocaine, which momentarily left the Rock Machine without a commander. The Rock Machine and other independent dealers were the target of a maneuver by Boucher, who was by this point the president of the Hells Angels chapter in Montreal. His ultimate goal was to give the Hells Angels complete control over biker gang drug dealing on the streets of Montreal, and eventually the entire province of Quebec. Coming in at number 9, Michel Langlois. Before relocating to Montreal, Langlois, who was born in Saint-André-Aveillin, spent his teenage years working on a farm in rural Quebec. He was given the nickname Sky since he had a pilot's license and was the owner of an aircraft. In 1964, Langlois, Roger Calve, and about a dozen other founding members established the Popeye Moto Club. The group expanded quickly, and by 1970, there were 7 chapters spread over the province. Early in the 1970s, the Popeyes started working with the Dubois brothers on criminal projects, first as assassins and later as heroin dealers. The next one on the list is Stephen GAULT. GAULT joined the Oshawa branch of Satan's Choice in the autumn of 1999. According to the club's bylaws, a new member had to be sponsored by an existing member who had known him for at least 5 years. However, GAULT's sponsor, Lavoie, had only known him for 5 months and had been paid $12,000 by GAULT to say otherwise. GAULT joined Satan's Choice with the express purpose of providing the authorities with information about the club. GAULT built a savage persona, bragging about how he had chewed off a man's ear and took the biker moniker Hannibal. Coming in at number 7, David Atwell. Atwell began working as a bouncer in pubs in Toronto as a teenager. He was born into a middle-class household in the Toronto suburb of Scarborough, Ontario. Atwell became acquainted with members of the Paradise Riders, a Toronto outlaw biker organization, through his guard responsibilities at the Falcon's Nest nightclub in the 1990s. He frequently interacted with them who showed him the way towards Hells Angels. Being a Hells Angel is not like being a normal person, said Atwell, who also defined it as a life of privilege. Naturally, there were never any discussion of me having to pay for anything. Even if I tried, I couldn't have. He was charged with drug dealing and forced to live on bail for the next 20 months, during which time he accrued significant legal debts and was compelled to live with his father in order to save money. He was arrested by the Toronto police on April 4, 2002, after selling drugs to a woman who later revealed to be a police informant. The charges were ultimately dropped, but he was left with a mountain of debt. To make matters worse, in 2004, he was fired from the security firm where he was working after it was discovered that he was a Hells Angel as a result of a security check by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police on the guard scheduled to be present at an event where Prime Minister Paul Martin would be present. Moving on to number 6, Marc Guardado. GUARDADO, who was accused of assaulting a guy on February 10, 2008 in Petaluma, California, passed away before he could defend himself in court. GUARDADO was charged with battery, and Vice President of the Hells Angels chapter for Sonoma County, Jonathan Nilsen, was charged with felony battery in connection with that event. A Sonoma County jury cleared Jonathan Nelson in March 2010 of felony assault and gang charges connected to McNear's brawl. On September 2, 2008, GUARDADO was killed in San Francisco's Mission District. Stepping forward to number 5, Normand HAMEL. HAMEL was born into a working-class household in Montreal. Sometime in the 1970s, he was involved in organized crime, and in 1978, he was accused of distributing drugs. HAMEL entered into a plea agreement in 1979, and he was given a 1-year prison term. He joined the SS, a white supremacist biker club that beat up non-white immigrants in 1981. Martin Hunault, the head of the Death Riders, a rival biker club, was assassinated by BOUCHER on April 28, 1987. HAMEL was in charge of overseeing the new members as the Laval-based Death Riders eventually merged into the Hells Angels. HAMEL was shot dead on April 17, 2000, while attempting to flee from Rock Machine assassins in a parking lot in Laval. Coming in at number 4, Gilles MATHIEU. MATHIEU came from a working-class background. He was employed by the Port of Montreal as a maritime inspector. MATHIEU was detained in 1980 after attempting to sell LSD to a police officer working undercover. He formally joined the Hells Angels on December 5, 1980. On June 26, 1981, MATHIEU was found guilty of conspiring to market LSD and given a 1-year prison term. On the evening of the Lennoxville massacre in 1985, MATHIEU was present at the clubhouse of the Sherbrooke chapter of the Angels, but he was exonerated. One of the most prominent Hells Angels in Montreal, MATHIEU was also wealthy. On February 15, 2001, MATHIEU was taken into custody at a hotel in Montreal. Number 3 on the list is MICHEL O'Farrell. In August 1972, O'Farrell, along with members of the Glendale Mongols, the San Bernardino Hells Angels, and the Straight Satans of Venice, sexually assaulted a 15-year-old girl while he was a member of the motorcycle gang Night Riders in Glendale. On April 5, 1973, in Los Angeles, he was one of 11 biker gang members found guilty of rape and sexual perversion. In addition to being a registered sex offender, O'Farrell had previous convictions for burglary, assault, grand theft, and robbery. Stepping forward to number 2, Scott STEINERT. Early in the 1990s, Robert T. Mager Richard, one of the most well-known Hells Angels in Quebec, who was heavily involved in the 1985 Lennoxville massacre, sponsored STEINERT to join the Hells Angels Montreal chapter. Richard's nickname, T. Mager, which means tiny, was intended to be humorous, like many other biker monikers, as Richard was a huge man with only one eye. Danny Kane, who eventually rose to prominence as the Hells Angels' top police informant, was originally brought in by STEINERT to one of their puppet clubs. In November 1994, Kane wrote that STEINERT had taken over as Maurice Mom Boucher's right-hand man, and was stockpiling C4 explosives to use in bombs. Kane revealed that STEINERT had hired a group of bomb makers under the direction of Patrick Lambert and had acquired 20 pounds of C4 explosives. Kane characterized STEINERT as an extremely violent bully who was eager to use whatever means necessary to help the Hells Angels win the Quebec motorcycle war. In the top spot, coming in at our number 1, Yves Trudeau. Trudeau did not look like your usual biker. He was clean-shaven, had short hair, and a height of 5 feet 6, but he is regarded as the Hells Angels' most murderous member. Trudeau admits to having killed 43 individuals. He was the first Hells Angel in Canada to get the Filthy Few patch, which is purportedly given to club members who have committed murder. Trudeau killed 18 of the 23 outlaws killed in the struggle between the Hells Angels and the Outlaws for control of Montreal's drug trade between 1978 and 1983. Langton referred to Trudeau as the most lethal assassin for the Angels, calling him a psychopathic killer and killing machine par excellence. So this was all about the 10 Hells Angels who are exceptionally horrific. Do you know any other Hells Angels? If yes, do let us know in the comments below.